It's been an interesting time in history. It's not new, but it's interesting. Over the course of the last, I don't even know how many years. I want to say over the course of the last 10 years, but it's kind of been 20. I want to say over the course of the last 20 years, but it's kind of been 30, maybe 40 or 50 or 60. It's just not new. You think, what the heck are you talking about? Well, it's an interesting time in history because we are seeing our society, us, drawing lines in the sand. Drawing lines in the sand and picking sides. And in picking sides, we are choosing which side that we're going to be on. Are we going to be on the Black Lives Matter side? The All Lives Matter side? The oppressed side? The oppressors side? The citizen side? The police side? The Democratic side? The Republican side? Maybe the Libertarian side? It's an interesting time in history. In fact, I've heard more than once from multiple sources, myself included, that we could be looking down the barrel of another civil war. All because we're picking sides. And we are looking at each other as the opposition. We're looking at each other from the lens of we're right versus we're wrong. Right and wrong, black and white, left and right. We've been picking sides. And this isn't new. That's why it's interesting, because history is cyclical, right? There's nothing new under the sun. It's not like anything like this has never happened before. Now, you and I might not have experienced anything like this in our own personal histories, but this isn't new. There are those who have. But to be honest, it seems that picking sides is just messed up. Why should I have to pick a side? Well, what we're seeing right now is a certain understanding or a certain viewpoint on maybe what our rights are, maybe what our standing is in society, a judgment on what you and I might deserve. Yeah, we're picking sides. What's interesting, though, is there's really only one side to pick. And maybe this will sound cliche, I don't know. But really what we're looking at is God's side. There is no God's side and my side, or God's side and our side. There's only really one side. I want to read you something out of Romans. In the context of the crap going on in culture. Now keep in mind this was written 2,000 years ago, which is why I said this is not new. Paul wrote in Romans 1, furthermore, since they didn't think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, he gave them over to a depraved mind to do what ought not to be done. They become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil desires, greed, depravity. They're full of envy and murder and strife and deceit and malice. They're gossips and slanderers. They're God-haters, insolent, arrogant, boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey their parents. They're senseless, faithless, heartless, and ruthless. And although they know God's righteous decree that those who deserve such things, or those who do such things, deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but approve of those who practice them. Now, it might seem like that's a pretty clear side. And it ain't God's, so that means there must be two sides here, right? And maybe there are even three sides. There's those people, there's God's side, and then there's my side. Those of us who are trying to be better or more than that. But that's not the case. Because if you keep reading, chapter 2 is right around the corner, and this is what chapter 2 says. You, therefore, have no excuse, you who pass judgment on someone else. For at whatever point you judge the other, you are condemning yourself, because you who pass judgment do the same things. And we know that God's judgment against those who do such things is based on truth. Why? Because God is the only truth there is. So when you, a man, pass judgment on them and yet do the same things, do you think you'll escape God's judgment? And what Paul is saying here is we're all on the same ride. Now, there might be some of us making decisions that are less than ideal. Okay, how about wrong? But the problem is, I make a lot of wrong decisions too. And for me to draw a line in the sand that says, well, you're over here and I'm over here, that's messed up. We're all in this together. And when it comes to being, as we claim to be, the people of God, it is both our responsibility and charge, I guess, to not only fight against some of these things that we judge other people over. For instance, I don't want to be violent. I don't want to hate. I don't want to have malice and deceit. I don't want to be full of envy. I don't want to be a God hater. I don't want to be senseless or faithless or heartless or ruthless. I don't want to be arrogant and boastful. I don't want to disobey my parents. I'm almost 50, but I don't want to disobey my parents. And so I'm fighting against all of those things. But as I'm fighting against those things, there are some things on that list that I don't have to fight for. I mean, I'm not a murderer. You know, I try not to slander. I don't think I'm ruthless. But then I'll pass judgment on people who are. But the problem is, there's no difference really between me and people who act like that. In fact, in a couple of chapters in Romans 3, Paul's going to say there is no difference because we have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. All of us. And technically, if you step back, this racism thing that is dominating the headlines and dominating our society, you know what racism is? It is stupidity wrapped in a cloak of self-righteousness. That somehow I am better than somebody else because of my skin color. Now let's even back up further from skin color. Sometimes we get wrapped up in I'm better than someone just because it's me. Well, the reality is this. No, you're not. No, I'm not. So I want to see what's happening in society, not from a lens of I'm better than them and I'm better than that. I want to see it through the lens of, yeah, we are messed up and we need Jesus bad. I mean bad. Some of you who may be watching this and don't have a relationship with God or with Jesus and haven't been buried in baptism, and you look at us Christians, and a lot of us are behaving just the same way everybody else does. You know why that is? Because we're not all that different from anybody else, except that we are trying to chase after God and suck at it. So I want to encourage you, don't look at your world through the lens of what is wrong with these people. Look at your world through the lens of we need Jesus badly because we can't do this on our own. I hope this made sense. I hope you're tracking with me. But we gotta come together. We gotta stick together because we're in this together. Left or right, black or white, right or wrong, we're in this together. So what can you do to change the world around you so that it's better? More to come.